Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zylstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turn obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by Danisha Brown, founder of Risk Exchange Agency in Baltimore. In just 3 years, Danisha has built a thriving agency by positioning herself not as an insurance agent, but as a personal wealth shield advisor, taking a holistic approach that helps clients use insurance as a financial tool rather than just another bill to pay. Now, she's facing the challenge many successful entrepreneurs know well, scaling beyond personal capacity while maintaining the relationship-driven approach that built her reputation. She's actively implementing AI systems to solve this growth bottleneck, making her story particularly relevant for leaders navigating similar transitions. Danisha, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. Now, Danisha, the dream that changed everything. You shared this incredible story about how a referral partner called you out of the blue saying he had a dream about you and invited you to a cocktail hour that same day, which led to you starting your own agency at 30 years old. Take us back to that moment. What was going through your mind walking into that room, and how did a random Tuesday event completely shift your trajectory from being a 1099 agent to your own agency owner?
Right. Gosh, when you make it seem like that, it just seemed like it's just that one moment, right? So when I walked in, I'm thinking it's just another day, honestly, another moment to just network. As a 1099, I had to bring in my own lead. So I was just networking like anything else. And there is where I met my business partner, all because a previous referral agent of mine said, "Hey, Danisha, I had a random dream about you. I think you should show up here." And I did what most people should do, which is show up. I just showed up and I just worked the room. And there is where I met my business partner, and he planted the seed. He said, "Oh, you're with this company. Okay, let's talk. How would you feel about being your own agency, starting your own agency?" And at the time that I met him, I was actually 29. And I was just like, okay, I'm interested. In my mind. I'm like, maybe at 35, I would have been doing this. But fast forward, him and I linked up, and the rest is history. Here we are 3 years later. He is one of the best business partners I've ever had. We would not be where we are if it was not us working together and having that one dream that someone said that I needed to show up to.
A dream has literally, perhaps you could say, become a dream life almost, or at least you're on the way. But Danisha, before this, right, you were in a different place. Danisha, you're living a dream, we could say, or, you're starting to live a dream that came from a dream. But before this dream, you had a different reality, right? You were at Goosehead Insurance. You were essentially at Goosehead. You were essentially thrown into the deep end, as I understand it, when you started your career, right? Given carriers and told to go do something with it. So as I understand it, you tried car dealerships first, but realized that, retention's pretty bad when it comes to clients coming from car dealerships, and you sort of felt like you were starting over constantly, right? Walk us through that pivot moment when you realized you needed a completely different approach. What was failing, and how did you systematically rebuild your client acquisition strategy around homeowners and referral partnerships?
Right. So in any business, right, trial and error is the best teacher that you can learn. So at the time when I originally got my license, I was a 9 to 5. The leads were coming to me. So when I transitioned to a independent 1099 with Goosehead, it was like, okay, you got to go out and go get your own leads. And so after asking the owner I was with, some other agents, they recommended going to dealerships because it's high premium. It's people always need insurance in order to pull off the lot. It just made sense at that time. And so I
Hmm.
built some great relationships with some car dealerships. I actually went there, on Saturdays. I was there all day because that's when people go out and buy cars, right? So Saturday, I'm just there sitting there. But I kept running into the same issue, which is people not paying their bills, I'm be honest. And so, the car dealerships, it was great volume, yes, but I kept running into chargebacks. People not paying the bills, people only just getting the insurance to pull off the lot, but not really understanding the monthly obligation of having this car along with the insurance that comes with it. And then they have a lapse in coverage, and then it just became more of a headache, to be honest. And so I was like, okay, what makes sense? And so that's when I started to pivot my branding. And so I was no longer going after car dealerships. I started connecting with referral partners like realtors and lenders and loan officers and business people, so that way I can change my niche to homeowners. And I resonated more with the homeownership because I bought my house at the age of 22, and I know the journey it is to be a homeowner and managing that lifestyle. So it just touched home for me. And so when I pivot my branding to what fits for me personally, it was a no-brainer, and I ran with it. And it makes more sense because most home insurance are what? Escrowed. And so now I got to worry about the people not paying their bills as much. And it's just a different type of clientele too. So we still sell auto. It's not like we don't, but it's just a different type of clientele to cross sell with that auto and if you already have it home.
Yeah, that's an incredible journey and a great story. I mean, you started in a position many entrepreneurs and business owners do, right? Trying and failing and starting again and trying to find that right niche or niche where you feel you belong and you can attract the right type of clientele, provide the right type of services. But that journey that you went through, I mean, it almost seems like it's what puts you in the position you are today by the way of those problems that you were facing. People defaulting on their bills, not paying their bills on their cars, maybe on their insurance as well. Perhaps, is this what led you to starting to position yourself as a personal wealth shield advisor, realizing that insurance, it's really a financial decision at the end of the day, and you need to approach it correctly. I mean, if you're going to be paying your bills, right? Or how should I say this differently? Yeah, it's ultimately a financial decision at the end of the day that impacts everything else, right? Was that part of the realization that you had, or part of what informed your pivot?
Yeah, so it was so many. I can't say like, okay, this one thing happened. It was a domino effect of different experiences that I had that made me make that pivot. So along with my own experience of being a homeowner and my basement flooded several times when I purchased my house, that was something that I did not anticipate, and I had to put in claims, and then my mortgage went up. These are experiences that I've gone through, along with, because I do all things insurance, along with, hearing stories about loved ones and clients that, foreclosures and probates, people losing their homes. And so, I'm like, okay, now that I know what I know now after going to insurance university, that's what I call it. This is 10 years of experience. At this point, I got my PhD in insurance. Now that I know what I know now, a lot of stuff that people go through, not everything, but a lot of things that people go through financially when it comes to home ownership can be avoided or have a proactive plan in place if they have certain insurance products there. That's the home, that's the life, that's the warranty to protect their lifestyle. So it's made me sit with myself to make sure that I have everything in order. And then after I sat with myself, then I'm like, okay, it's a lot of people that's in the same situation that I've been in, where they're homeowners, but they really don't understand the lifestyle to maintain their home ownership. And so now that it's been over 10 years since I've been a homeowner, I can really touch on it and really educate people because I've experienced it myself, and it's all connected to insurance.
Certainly, certainly. Now, you said that, you went to insurance university 10 years, but I think it's probably more like you have a master's, right? I mean, if we think about the road to mastery in anything, Malcolm Gladwell, who quoted Robert Greene, that 10,000 hours is what's necessary to get to mastery in anything, right? You've been 10 years in insurance, you've achieved mastery in it, let's say, and that's evident in the business that you've built. I mean, you've mentioned that through what you've done, the pivot that you've made, and the focus on strategic partnerships, you're now at a point where you're getting too many calls that you're missing opportunities because there's only one of you because of these relationships and the trust that you've built. I mean, this is a pretty good problem to have, right? But it's still a problem at the end of the day. What was that? I don't know if we want to say breaking point or more pivotal moment when you realize that your personal capacity is just the bottleneck limiting your growth. How are you starting to systematically solve this without losing this personal touch that built your reputation?
Great question. So, one of the first things when I became an agency owner, it was a shift in mindset from being a producer to an owner. And at the time, I was like, okay, I need a mentor to just kind of guide me on some things because you make less mistakes when you have mentorship. And one of the first things my mentor said at the time was duplicate, delegate. She said, as an owner, you won't make it far if you don't duplicate, delegate. Trying to duplicate myself throughout this whole process. It's just not hard. It's just not easy duplicating parts of yourself. So you have the sales side, you have the administrative side, the marketing side, workshops, and so many different parts. And then we have different types of sales. You have your P&C, your health, your life. And so nobody can do it all like I can, but I can duplicate parts of myself. And so that process has been, I'm gonna be honest, it's not hard duplicating yourself. You have to be patient. You have to find the right type of people. I don't want anybody on my team. I'm not just, right now we are always hiring, but we're going through an interview process. I want a people person because I am a people person. So the type of people that I bring on my team are very intentional so that way my clients can still have that same warm energy that I introduced them to through me. And so a part of that is just, even when I pass off my clients to my team to take care of it, I am still a part of that process. I'm still checking in with the client saying, hey, how's everything going? I know so-and-so worked on your home insurance quote. I know that you're home. So that way they can still feel like they're a part of the family of REA. So that's just doing an extra touch point on my end and then just making sure that I hire and bring on the right people on my team to duplicate some of that same energy that I may hand off. Because sales is sales, right? Everybody can sell, but not everybody cares. And so I have a team that I can honestly say that actually cares about the clients that we help.
Well, some people say, and I believe it as well, that ultimately selling is helping, right? Because you're not going to sell somebody something they don't need. Well, most people wouldn't buy something they don't need, let's say. And if you're selling something that someone doesn't need, especially in the world of insurance, you're probably going to have a cancellation or a policy lapse, or there's going to be a clawback there. You're not going to be in a better position as an agent as a result of that. But
Right.
when it comes to duplication and delegation, it's a difficult thing, especially when you're trying to duplicate yourself in people and employees, right? No one's going to be able to replicate your passion as a business owner and how hard you're willing to work for your business at the end of the day, but it's the only way to actually get out of working in the trenches, right? Trading your hours for dollars. I mean, even if there is a nice residual income as an agent, you're still ultimately working in the business instead of on the business all the time, unless you can duplicate yourself. So there's the obvious challenges with human duplication, right? But we're approaching a world where there's more options and availability for duplication through AI, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about how it is you're starting to leverage AI and technology to duplicate yourself, your efforts, and your results?
Absolutely. So, as I said earlier, it's very important for my clientele to feel like they're a part of the family and they're being taken care of. But let's be honest, there's only one of me, and that can be a very tedious process. And, people can fall between the cracks by me reaching out and having that second touch point while my agent is supporting them. And so, with the AI integration, we are, having some things in place where like an automatic message will come out from me to clients that I've referred over to my team, just to check in, just to let them know, hey, I am still here and they're not being pawned off. Also, a lot of times with my agents, we have access to multiple different carriers. And so sometimes that takes time to quote and shop around for clients. And so we are creating an automation process where, hey, while someone is in the quoting process, if it's taking 48 hours or 72 hours, that they will get that communication to let them know that, hey, we are working on your quote. Just, it takes away a lot of some of the hand holding I would say, when it comes to keeping the relationship with the clients. Because let's be honest, in insurance, if you're not communicating with them and if they don't hear from you, they will go somewhere else and shop somewhere else. And so to say, okay, hey, we did not forget about you, just a quick text. It could be a text message. It don't even have to be an email or a formal thing. Sometimes just having that quick text message puts that client at ease to know that they are taken care of. And so we're using that AI far as client relationships, also to streamline our process. Like I said, I have a very overwhelming list of clientele that reach out, referral partners that reach out. And so we are creating a special calendar link that will be a round robin to our agents. So that way, instead of people calling me, they could just click a link and say, hey, they want to do auto insurance. And so whoever's next up in line in the rotation, whatever agent is available will be able to help them. So that way it's not coming to me and I can be like, hey, who's available? Are you able to handle this? Taking that out of the picture makes things process a lot longer. And the biggest thing, David, that I want to say is I am creating an engine that runs on its own, and that's the biggest piece.
An engine that runs on its own, automation, very powerful, AI, very powerful. It sounds like you're starting to implement systems that are well on the way of getting you there. Are these things that you've implemented already, or are you still in the trenches of making them work? Because they can be challenging.
I am literally in the process of making them work. It's not an overnight process because you got to build it from scratch. That's the thing about having a dream in a business. It's all in your head, and then when you sit down and you really be like, okay, this is what I want it to look like. That's the part that takes time. And so the automation process and really building it from scratch and training the AIs to think the way you want to think and have it is a process. I will not lie to you. However, on the other side of this, I know that it is all going to be worth it. I meet with my automation guy once to twice a week, and we are working very hard to have some things up and rolling at least by the fourth quarter.
Amazing, amazing. So you're well on the way, right? You're in the trenches with this current pivot to get you to the point where, maybe agency life or work and business life will be different once these automations are in place, right? Freeing you up for another vision that you have in the future, right? Surely, Danisha, you're not the type of business owner who's just going to automate her life and her business and then sit back and go sip on margaritas on the beach, right? You painted a little bit of a vision for me when we first spoke about your agency being able to run without you. So you can start focusing on other things that will then fuel the agency even more. So once things are automated, once you can step back from the day-to-day small minutia of scheduling meetings and sending follow-ups, what's life going to look like for you?
Well, I just see myself opening up more businesses. Do I know exactly what they are? Not necessarily. I know I have a nonprofit in the belly some point. I have a passion for arts education as well. Growing up in arts, went to Baltimore School for the Arts, so theater is another love of mine. So I just see myself being a really serial entrepreneur. And I'm young, like you said, I started this at 30. So imagine, this in 10 years and, I'll probably be ready to take on something else. While this is up and running, and honestly, it'd probably be before 40, but this is up and running and everything. And so I plan on opening up another business. By then, I'll have a family as well. So life will be completely different, hopefully in the next 5 years or so.
Danisha, I would love to ask you for some parting words of advice for the audience. Now, when we spoke previously, you mentioned being one of the few young female African-American agency owners that you've encountered. However, instead of seeing this as a challenge, you've turned it into a strategic advantage. What advice would you give to other young entrepreneurs who feel like they don't fit into the traditional mold in their industry? How do you leverage being different as a competitive advantage?
Great question. My word of advice is to be yourself. That is what I've learned in this journey, is to just organically be yourself. I've run across so many people in this industry who offer the same products. Insurance isn't new. It's been around for over 100 years. So, there are other people in this industry. But by me just being myself and me just showing up and being that organic person, I attract the right type of clientele. I attract the right type of people, the right type of community, right type of people who just encourage. Some people just literally never bought anything, had any of my services, but they refer a lot of business to me. They, send me motivational things. So just be you, and everything else will follow.
Fantastic. I love that. Danisha, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining the Growth Shift and for sharing your story with the audience.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. For any of the audience who might like to connect with you, either to inquire about working with you or for you, or perhaps just to buy insurance, what would be the best way to reach out?
Absolutely. I am Danisha, Miss Danisha Brown, your personal wealth shield advisor, and you can certainly find me on social media at Miss Danisha. That's MISSDANISHA, and I can help you with all of your insurance needs, from protecting your assets and building wealth at the same time.
Fantastic. Thanks again. And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses like yours scale smarter, not harder. I'm David Zylstra, and I'll see you in the next shift.